of Know Your Rights, Sepa sus derechos. This will be the English version, and you are now watching the version that was video recorded on March 26th of 2017. You always want to make sure that you are watching the latest version in order to obtain the latest information. So who are we? We are a combination of different groups and identities. We are not lawyers, but we collaborate with attorneys in order to be able to obtain the latest information and then make it available to you. We collaborate with the North Bay Immigrant Youth Union, who were the ones who originally designed this presentation, and I have made some changes in order to fit the time and the new information that is being made available to us. So who is at risk of being deported at the moment? Based on new decisions by Donald Trump and Homeland Security, the people who are at most at risk of being deported at the moment are individuals who have been convicted of DUIs, individuals who have been convicted or arrested for DUIs, domestic violence, sexual crimes, individuals who have been in possession of marijuana or other drugs, individuals including U.S. residents who have been found to be in possession of medical marijuana cards, individuals who have received a deportation order and did not leave the United States, individuals who came with a visa such as a visitor's visa and did not leave the country after their visa expired, and individuals with a history of gangs. Now, Donald Trump recently included a new group of people, and that is, he made some changes to a previous policy. The previous policy said anyone who is arrested entering the United States who is undocumented and is arrested in the first 24 hours or is arrested in the first 100 miles from the U.S.-Mexican border north is set up for what we call expedited removal, which means their fingerprints are taken, the paperwork is done on them, and then they're kicked out of the United States without a further process. What Donald Trump has said is that now that 100-mile rule no longer exists, and he says anybody detained in the United States who cannot prove that they have been living in the United States, who is undocumented, and cannot prove that they have been living in the United States for at least 2 years, is subject for expedited removal. This has caused a lot of worry in the community, and therefore it's important for us to make that information available to you. So what do we do if immigration comes to our home and knocks on the door? Different individuals will give you different information. Some individuals will tell you to talk with immigration while the door is closed, but in this situation, the recommendation is that you stay calm and that you do not speak with immigration. Instead, you can use the time to be able to text family members who may be on their way home to let them know not to come home. You could be calling family members. You could be calling your attorney in case immigration decides to take you into custody. But again, this shouldn't be a time where you engage into conversation with immigration, as immigration officials receive up to 60 hours of training on how to convince you to open the door. Let us remember that immigration officials can lie to you, but you are not allowed to lie to immigration. This is applicable also with the police. And so when you hear somebody knocking on the door, we suggest that you go over by the window, far away from the door, so that you can see who's outside. If the individual has a vest that says police, and you know that there shouldn't be a police officer outside your door, you should be suspicious. Many of the immigration officials wear vests that says police, but in fact they're immigration. Recently, Congressman Mike Thompson and few other members of Congress have sent a letter to the immigration office to demand that they stop wearing vests that say police, and instead they should be wearing vests that say immigration, for two different reasons. One, this confuses our community, and two, a person may be thinking that they're approaching a police officer to report a crime, and in fact, they may end up in the hands of immigration. So the recommendation is that you do not open the door. And it is important that we recognize that immigration officials look like everybody else. In the 1980s and parts of the 1990s, and even over in the border, they wear these green uniforms. But immigration officers who come to our doors often are wearing jeans and khaki pants and a long sleeve shirt or a short sleeve shirt. So it's important that we do not believe that they wear uniforms all the time. What they do wear are steel toe boots, and this is used so that the moment you open the door, they stick their foot in the door to make sure you're not going to be able to close it again. And so we invite you to be cautious in these situations. We also invite you to, again, not ask for an arrest warrant or any of that stuff. Again, the idea is that you stay calm and do not speak with immigration. At work, things can be a little bit different. If you work in the fields, from years of experience of people who work in the fields, if 20 immigration officers are coming at you and there are 50 workers, well, to a certain degree, the rule has always been the one who runs the fastest will make it home or go hide in the bushes. But if you work inside an office, or if you work in a shopping center, and maybe you work in a restaurant, running away is not something that we advise. And the many reasons for that includes that somebody's going to fall and somebody's going to get hurt. But usually by the time immigration gets to the front door, somebody from immigration is already in the back door waiting for people who are trying to run away. So we suggest that you do not run away. Somebody's going to get hurt. And under the interpretation of the law, if an immigration officer sees you run, they have the right now to detain you, which may include taking you on the floor. And that's where you could also get hurt. So we invite you to stay calm. If you can cautiously and slowly find a closet or somewhere to hide, that would be okay. But other than that, don't try to fight. Stay quiet. And then just remember to tell them that you reserve the right to remain silent until you speak to your attorney. And don't worry about not having an attorney right now. What matters is that you do not give information that eventually can cause you to be deported right away. The other thing that we remind you of now is that often you get different types of information. If you are 18 and older and you live in California, you can get under AB 60 a driver license. Yes, that driver license suggests that you're undocumented, and therefore people say, well, why should I carry that? Well, you should carry it because it's better to carry that driver license than to be carrying your matricula consular from whatever country you are from or anything else. So you should keep your matricula at home. You should keep all of their information that tells immigration immediately where you are from, and you should carry just that form of ID from the state of California or whatever state you're in that tells them that you are from that state. Beyond that, immigration will ask again for you to provide them your name, your address, all of that information. If the information is already in the ID, there is no purpose for them to be asking you for your home address, other than if they suspect that you're undocumented, they might want to stop at your house and pick up the rest of your family. This is why we suggest that you say, I respectfully refuse to answer any questions until I speak with my attorney, or I reserve the right to remain silent until I speak with my attorney. People may think that by saying that you're going to get into more trouble, but in fact, these are rights under the amendments of the Constitution, and you have the right to remain silent. Walking in the street, the idea is that you're not going to be kind to an immigration officer. If you're just walking and then an immigration officer comes towards you and says, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" You know what? I don't have time to talk to you, and just keep on walking. You are speaking while you're walking. If they say, "Well, we're just trying to, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk to you right now," and then you can just keep on walking. If at that moment an immigration officer or two come in front of you and prevent you from walking, you have the right to ask, "Am I being detained or am I free to go?" If the officer says you are being detained because we suspect that you're undocumented, then follow their instructions and then again show them an ID if that's what they are asking for. But beyond that, do remember to tell them that you have the right to remain silent and that you will not speak to them until you speak with your attorney. If you are able to walk away because they didn't know what to do, which often they get a little bit confused when you're actually using your rights, if you get away, then the next thing for you to do will be to call and tell people where you saw immigration. Again, if you're just walking by and they let you go, as soon as you walk past them, just keep on walking. Do not run, because the moment you start running is the moment they will stop you. If you are in the car, you just have to remember that if they stop the car, then they're going to ask you for an ID. Again, the least you share, the better. They can look at your driver license and then they can decide whether or not you're an undocumented immigrant. If they say step out of the car, you follow their directions. And then again, don't try to drive away, because you may end up hurting somebody, hurting yourself, and then having criminal charges posted against you. Again, we are saying do not carry any false documents. And this is important, again, that you just remind them, if they detained you, that you reserve the right to remain silent until you speak with your attorney. In California, we have something that is called the Truth Act. And the Truth Act, what it says is that you have the right to information about how your local police and sheriffs are working with immigration. Recently, in the county of Sonoma, the sheriff was provided with a letter by members of the community who are saying that because he has been working with immigration, they are looking at making a recall and getting enough signatures to take him out of the job, because they do not approve with him working with immigration. And so in this situation, under the Truth Act, people have the right to know what the sheriff and the police are doing. This means that before, if you are in custody with the sheriff's office in the jail, or the police department in their jail, and immigration tries to speak to you, you have the right to be told what are the possible consequences of you speaking with immigration, and then they must give you a form where you consent to still speak with immigration. The other thing that they are supposed to do, they are supposed to share this information with the community, and so the police department must hold community forums in order to be able to share the information about how they are working with immigration, why, and how many people they are assisting every month to be processed for deportation. And so it's really, really important that you keep that in mind. You have certain rights. And so we tell people to be prepared in case immigration comes to their house, their job, and many other places. We prepare for this in the same way as you would prepare for an earthquake. And so we must be realistic, and we must speak with children about the possibility that we may be taken into custody by immigration. Then we must prepare a plan. The plan includes having enough funding in a bank account for somebody to take us out on bail if at all possible. Again, the people that I mentioned previously who have been either arrested, charged, or convicted of those crimes like, again, drugs or gang affiliation, sexual crimes, domestic violence, and those individuals who overstayed their visa or already got a deportation order and did not leave the United States, those individuals, based on what Donald Trump is saying, are not likely to be let out on bail. But people without any type of criminal history should be able to get bail. So part of the preparation includes that you have a lawyer that you know will be able to take the case, and somebody who's obviously a lawyer that is honest and respectful. You also should have enough funding, and so an attorney who's going to be able to go and try and get you out on bail is an attorney that will cost you about $2,000 just for the paperwork and the appearance in front of the judge. The bail itself usually is between $3,000 and $5,000 if you have not committed any crimes. If you have a DUI in the past, it would cost between $10,000 and $15,000 plus the cost of the attorney. After that, you usually have a year, and about 3 months later, you go back into court and you just set a date of a hearing so that in the future you'll be able to go in front of a judge, and that usually happens in a year for you to be able to fight your deportation case. In order to do that, you must demonstrate that you are a member of this community. What does that mean? It means that if you're an adult, that you have learned English, and there are many schools where they can teach you some basic English for free. They also will expect you that if you are married and have children, that you are going to your children's school to make sure that they are being successful in school. So parent meetings like ELACs and DLACs, teacher-parent meetings on a regular basis. And this is important because the judge will expect you to get a letter from the school at some point suggesting that you are going to those meetings. The school where you're learning English will also be able to write you a letter saying that you're learning English. If you're a religious person, if you go to a church or other place of worship, you should be able to get a letter from them in a year saying that you are somebody who assists on a regular basis and that you are a person of faith. If you have a job, you will be able to also get a letter from your job if you are doing good in your job for you to be able to again fight this. And again, what we're looking at is about 10 letters. They cannot all come from one place. It has to show that you're also doing community service. Your friends, your family, and other people can write letters, but there are specific places where you must get letters from. And so it's important for you to keep that in mind. Again, if you are detained, all you have to do is tell them immediately that you reserve the right to remain silent until you speak with your attorney. You should also stay calm and remember always at least 2 phone numbers of reliable people who will be able to take action, which includes calling an attorney, securing the funds to be able to go and get you out of custody. The first 48 hours are some of the most critical time for you to be able to be taken out of custody. And as soon as you get to immigration, often they will put a form in front of you, which is called the I-826, and there are 3 sections to it. At the top it says that they suspect that you're undocumented. The second paragraph says you have rights and that you have the right to fight your deportation. Then you're given 3 options. One option says that you respectfully request a hearing in front of a judge. And there, right about where it says that you request a hearing, you should write locally, and you should voice that to the individual who is interviewing you, who is usually an immigration officer. And the reason you want to do locally is because you don't want them to send you to another state where your family will not be able to help you. The second option usually says that you fear that if you're deported, that you could die or be killed, and so you fear for your safety. That is not always the best choice for you to mark, because unless you can prove that you are seriously going to be in danger when you go back, the court will send you back to your country. This includes that if in the state where you come from you fear that if you go back there you could die, the judge will simply tell you to move to another part of the country where you come from, where that person or that group of people will not cause you any harm. That's why that is not a good option. And the last option usually suggests that you do not fear for your safety and that you're ready to leave the United States. And so it is really important that you read that material, and if you do not understand what they're saying or what the paper is saying, or often an immigration officer already put a check mark in the wrong one, you should respectfully refuse to sign any documentation until you speak with your attorney. Again, we suggest that you save as much money as possible so that you will be able to fight your deportation. The other thing is, if you have children, you should make sure that you have somebody who's going to take care of your children, especially if they are US born. Two, we suggest that if you are from Mexico specifically, that you should get the double citizenship or dual citizenship for your children as soon as possible, because in the future, if you were to get deported, your children will have an easier time entering Mexico if they have the Mexican passport. And so what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to secure all that documentation, make sure to identify somebody who can take care of your children. Could be a U.S. citizen, it could be a U.S. resident, and it could be somebody with DACA or the U visa, the T1 visa, or any other type of visa, and they can take over that responsibility. We do not suggest that you go to a public notary to do that letter, but look for resources. At the end, we will provide you with an email address where you can ask us, and you can go to our website or Facebook page, that is DACA Sonoma County, where you can find information about reliable sources for this. And so we invite you to keep that in mind. Identify somebody that you trust with your children and save as much money, because if you are kept in the custody of immigration because perhaps you're one of those individuals who committed a crime previously or who cannot prove that you have been here for 2 years, there would be money necessary for your bail, hopefully, and money necessary for somebody to take care of your children, and of course, for the lawyers. Those of you who have DACA, it's important that we understand what is happening. We have gotten a leaked version of a draft of what DACA and the elimination of DACA may look like. This has been out for a while now and is not yet official. But what it suggests is that if Donald Trump was to sign this, it would say that anybody who has DACA would be able to keep it until the card expires. Anybody who's going through DACA renewal would be allowed to renew, and then they would have up to 2 years with their work permit. And anybody who's applying for the first time would not be able to finalize the process, and therefore they would lose their $495. The worry with that is that now immigration may have your fingerprints and everything else, and you didn't even get DACA. So some attorneys, many attorneys are saying that someone should not apply for DACA at this time. Immigration Legal Resource Center put out a bit of information recently, and they have a view that the recommendation is that somebody who is 16 and 17 year olds who still meet the criteria for DACA, which means they came to the United States before the age of 16 and they came to the United States before June 15, 2007, and can prove that they have been here for that period of time until today, every 90 days, that they should consider applying for DACA if they are 16 or 17 now, but only through an attorney. And the reason is that once that individual turns 18, he or she starts time against them, so that if you have been living as an 18-year-old as an undocumented immigrant, that individual in the future, if they try to adjust and become a resident of the United States, may be kicked out of the United States for 3 years. Once that person has been living in the United States for 1 year, meaning now they are 19 or older, their ban from the United States usually is up to 10 years. And that's why taking the risk of getting DACA would be possibly beneficial, because those individuals may, once they turn 18, may be protected, because if they have DACA, that time that they are here as undocumented does not count against them. And so there are many more resources out there. Again, we have DACA Sonoma County on Facebook. Immigrant Legal Resource Center is ilrc.org. The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU.org. The California Immigrant Youth Justice Alliance, so it's CIYJA.org, and the Immigrant Youth Coalition, IYC.org. And there are other the North Bay Immigrant Youth Union, which again is MBIYU.org. And so it's really important that as we move forward, that you get involved. Whether you have legal status or not, you should get involved, because this is the only way that things will get better. If you're undocumented, we suggest that you do not be the face of that movement, that you do not go out there and get arrested, that if you go to a march, you be cautious and not be in the front. Sometimes getting involved means making phone calls. Sometimes getting involved means volunteering with other organizations. We are happy to educate and train people with the knowledge that we have, if that means that then you will go out there and educate other individuals. We do presentations throughout Northern California. We accept donations for all of the photocopying and other expenses related with this work, and we invite you to keep this information going for other individuals. We also want to let you know that we get information from many different sources, and the latest information in regards to sensitive locations is still accurate. That means that immigration is committed to not enter hospitals, schools, or places of worship, so religious centers, which is something that has been implemented since 2011. That is because if immigration was to enter a school, kids may run away and get hurt, and more than anything, it creates a chaotic environment. Under Plyer versus Doe, schools are not allowed to maintain information about who's undocumented and who's not. And as a result of that, the schools don't even know who has legal status or not. Also, it's important to remember that federal law requires that every child between kinder and 12th grade must be attending school. And as a result of that, those children are protected, especially during school hours. And so if immigration was to show up, they will be told to come back, or simply they are not allowed to walk in, because there are other laws, federal and state laws, that prevent bullying, which is what immigration would be doing to a child who is undocumented, and they require that all schools provide a safe and healthy learning environment. And so as more updates come up, please check our Facebook page, DACA Sonoma County. And check out KBBF Bilingual Radio, kbbf-fm.org, for updates, usually in Spanish, about this information on immigration. Again, you're welcome to contact us at northbayimmigrantyouth@gmail.com or bismarck@mbiyu@gmail.com. You can also send emails at ell@santarosa.edu, or you can call 707-521-6934. Again, 707-521-6934. Thank you for your time.